It's the weekend. We are back. Football is back. And of course, the Premier League is back. I'm Tony.
And I'm Tim.
Thank you for joining us once again. Of course, very interesting to always have you on our discussions that we have here while we bring you the weekend's biggest games. We had a lot of football in midweek as well. Big wins for most of the teams. We saw Arsenal winning against Sevilla. Big win for them. Man City also won their game. Liverpool, Man U won their game as well with the last gasp Onana save, which might have boosted his confidence going into the weekend.
Yeah, I think it boosts his confidence. He's been the target man all season. So you look at that and his counterpart, Harry Maguire, getting the goal. So could that lift the two of them? And I think that can help United.
Very interesting. And of course, Liverpool also won in the Europa League. A big win there against Toulouse, 5-1. It was suddenly very interesting to see all goals scored by separate players. So it was suddenly a very, very mouth-watering one. But of course, we kick things off on Saturday with the early kickoff. Chelsea will be taking on Brentford. This is a London affair, Timothy. Two teams that come into, of course, this particular game with differing forms. Last time out, Chelsea, of course, throwing those 3 points away against Arsenal. They led that game 2-0, ended up drawing 2-2. What went wrong?
A lot, Tony, went wrong. And I think the game got defined in the substitution that was made. I think the removal of Palmer was, I think, the turning point. Yeah, because those two had attacked Arsenal, and I think Arsenal was in the back foot. Surprisingly, Arsenal for sure struggled in that game. But once the substitutes were made, and then lapse of concentration from the goalkeeper of Chelsea, that goal reduced the gap, and immediately Arsenal knew that the next goal would get them back into a result.
It definitely gave them a big spark, and they ended up drawing that game 2-2. Brentford, on the other hand, had a very big win last time out, 3-0 in that particular game, of course, with Mbeumo and Wissa, of course, getting 2 goals in that particular game, both on the score sheet, which was very interesting to see. They now come to Stamford Bridge. We talk about Chelsea and how they set up against Arsenal. It's a game we had talked about the midfielders having a fierce battle. Chelsea seemed to get out on top in that particular one. Declan Rice and Odegaard seemed really stifled in that game.
Yeah, I think the Chelsea midfielders were more dominant. Caicedo had a brilliant game, same as Enzo. And I think they targeted Arsenal, and they knew if Odegaard is stifled and cannot pick the passes, then the rest of the players will not surely be able to find the spaces to go ahead and hurt Arsenal. Of course, it was until the latter stages of the game that's when Arsenal managed to come back and pick a point. But going into this game against Brentford, you recall last season, Brentford actually walked away with a win from the Stamford Bridge. So Pochettino had asked on his side whether to go with the same team that played well against Arsenal or try to reshuffle it and bring back the orthodox number 9 available for him in Jackson. I think you try to go back to Jackson, but again, you have to try and fit in Palmer and Sterling because they were brilliant.
It will be very interesting to see how Pochettino calls that one. It will be interesting. This is the team that Chelsea perhaps will be expecting to come and have a positive mental attitude against them. Of course, with that false 9, will they try it again? I don't think so. We saw when Jackson came on, still he hasn't picked the form that's expected at the top level like Chelsea. So that there still will be questions there. We saw Cole Palmer taking the penalty against Arsenal there over Raheem Sterling, which was also a very interesting point to see.
I think it shows you that the young boy is very confident. Yeah, there is experience, Tony, but I think Palmer knew his own form. And I think Enzo was right to say, no, let the young man take it. And I think if a young man misses it, he will still grow and be able to get over that. But if Sterling had missed it, then there would be, I think, more questions because he's aging. We know that. So good work, Palmer, for taking it in.
Chelsea fans will be glad that there was a sight of Reece James in this particular game. He had, I think, about 15 minutes coming on there to try and keep the points that Chelsea had accumulated. Of course, it wasn't meant to be, but they'll certainly be happier that now perhaps there is a player that maybe even tomorrow's game will be featuring from the start.
Yeah, from Pochettino's press conference, he said he will try to give him minutes. We don't know whether he will start or come in the latter stages, but I think they need their captain back in that side. And the Chelsea was starting to watch now. We waited to see them. I think it's coming back.
All right, prediction team.
I've gone for Chelsea win. I think they will pick up from the Arsenal performance and be able to close this one this time 2-1.
Very interesting. I think Brentford definitely has the goals. It will certainly be very interesting to see. I think though Chelsea has those frailties that they always come back.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one for me. I'm leaning more towards a draw, especially that it's an early kickoff.
Yeah.
But because Chelsea was off in midweek and they've had all the time to rest, I've given them a 2-1 win as well.
It's 2-1 for both of us.
Very interesting. We'll be coming back with more games. Don't go anywhere.